the other thing that I've already noticed a couple times so far this school year is just using um, screenshots, getting access to private conversations or, public conversations and using that to spread it around and say, look at this and this person said that or, and it's friends. Like it's created so much opportunity for young people to be able to make poor choices.
It's a brand new day.
Student needs continue to evolve, and having an advocate and someone they can speak with openly is critical. So for us to have the unique perspective of a school counselor join the show is a huge privilege. We would like to welcome Lexi to the show. Welcome, Lexi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thanks for being here. We're going to start pretty basic. Will you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your career journey?
Yeah, so I kind of started a little bit late, didn't take the typical path, which is really actually fun now being a school counselor because I 100% use my experience as like, you don't have to do everything step 1, step 2, step 3. So that's been really helpful. But basically, I started back up at my undergrad, I'd say like 23, 24, and finished that up. I graduated in 2016 with a psychology degree from Webster and then went right back in also at Webster for my graduate program for school counseling. That was a 2.5-year program. I think I finished that. Yeah, so it was December of 2019. So super fun because then you're, starting off the job market at the very, very start of the pandemic.
Oh.
So that was interesting. But I ended up getting a job at Roosevelt High School in South City here in St. Louis. And I did that for 3 years. And then now I'm back at my alma mater for high school, which is Afton. So I'm in the Afton School District in the high school. So I just started that in August.
What a cool experience that you get to be back where you attended high school. So cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's different for everybody. You didn't have that linear path, but it worked out perfectly for you. And that's exciting to hear.
Yes.
That's very cool.
Yes. It kind of did because after I decided I wanted to be in education and school counseling, I was just kind of like, I had my sights set on Afton, and to get kind of your final destination after 3 years is very, I feel very grateful.
Yeah, almost unheard of to have it happen so
Yes.
quickly, but that's awesome.
Yes.
So thinking with this being centered around social media and things like that, we like to ask our guests, how do you typically interact and engage with social media, both personally and professionally?
So I am a quiet observer type. I mostly consume, I'm not big on posting, commenting. I'll scroll through a couple different platforms and just kind of see what people have going on. And then particularly TikTok, I kind of got into that craze after the pandemic, jumped on that TikTok train. And so I'll scroll through there a bunch, but it's really just more informative entertainment. Kind of just being like an introverted type of person. I'm not putting myself out there at all. I used to, especially when my daughter was a little bit younger, just to kind of share with family and friends, milestones and that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, I'm more of an observer these days.
Okay. Professionally, do you use do you do newsletters or use any social media for your role as a school counselor?
I don't. I mean, like the school does, and I think that like as a whole, the counseling program in the district kind of contributes to stuff like that. So I don't really have a role in that. I do coach cheer. So I've used it for that. Like I created like an Instagram account and a TikTok account for that. And so that's been, I mean, kind of fun to just kind of to use social media in a way where you're not having to like represent yourself, kind of like you're not having to put yourself out there. So that's been interesting. I don't, because I'm kind of the observer type. I don't post as much as I would like to, but it's been really cool to like kind of see how the students like their ideas and just like how they interact with social media. It's kind of given me a little bit of a peek into
Okay.
that world.
Yeah, it's a great use of social media. I love that. What are some ways you have seen social media and digital platforms work well with students? So focusing on the positive to start.
So, like I said, like the district as a whole and like individual school buildings, we have 4 buildings in the district, have, social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, I believe Twitter or X, and just sharing all the positives within the district, just like really specific like stuff going on in the classroom that the community and even parents wouldn't know about otherwise. I think that's really cool to have that these days. And then also just like sharing news, what's going on, anything like a snow day or, just like stuff that parents want to know right away, basically. So I think that has been really positive as far as just like district wide and just as a parent myself, because my daughter goes to Afton, like that's been my primary experience with like social media and digital platforms in Afton, or in schools. I'd say beyond that, as far as like student like focused positives, I think it's really beneficial that students have pretty much any information that they could ever want at their fingertips. I know that's also dangerous, but I think it first of all, like as long as we're teaching media literacy and how to vet your sources, having access to different opinions, having access to different ways maybe the story is told, I think that is really important and cool, because I think it helps the next generation be more critical thinkers than just back when we had textbooks, it was like, here's the information, one textbook, that's kind of what you get, unless you like seek out, particularly seek out more information. But yeah, they have platforms and apps for everything, hall passes, digital, that's an app on their phones. So I think it's beneficial. They would probably tell you something different because it kind of like keeps them like with the hall pass, for example, it kind of keeps them on their toes a little more. But I think it just makes everything easier. And I think it helps with student success in general, just having all these different virtual ways they can, learn when it's a snow day, they can learn when they're sick. Maybe they're sick for a full week. That's a lot of school to miss. So having the ability to keep up, even though you can't be at school, I think that's been super beneficial. And then just there's some kids that just learn online the whole year. Maybe they, mobility issues, physical health, mental health, and that's been a really big game changer to allow students to still have access to a free public education despite any kind of limitations they might have.
It's great. I've never heard of the hall passes as an app. That's a new one to me.
Yes, it's called eHall Pass, and yeah, so it like times them. It's like it sends an alert to the teacher that you're kind of like, I'm sending this kid to you, and yeah, it's crazy, but
Okay. So
yeah,
you have access to, where they are and how long they've been gone and
yes,
things like that.
yeah, it tracks like this student has a pass right now, or like these 30 students currently have a pass right now. You can put limitations on like this student doesn't do well when there's a lot of people out in the hallway. So if there's more than 20 passes, well, like as if you try to put in a pass for this particular student, and it'll say, no, there's too many students in the hallway right now. It feels like kind of like extra monitory, which again, I know can be kind of a negative, but I think it does help with us to help them be successful.
And just getting that information out to parents, as you mentioned, the kids seeking out information and helping them through media literacy efforts and things like that. I love what you said there. But telling my age a little bit, when we had snow days, you mentioned snow days and things like that, we had to turn the news on at 10 o'clock and cross our fingers and wait through all of the districts.
Oh yeah.
Because we were late in the alphabet.
And it would take.
And then if you just missed it, you had to wait.
10 minutes. Yep. Yeah. It's a different world, and it's fun to reminisce on, like we had to sit and watch the TV scroll and whatever. But I mean, it's very practical as a parent. So I will just say that.
And you also mentioned mental health challenges and things like that. So I'm going to turn the tables just a little bit. What has been the most challenging aspect in your experience of what you've seen? And this could be through, Roosevelt or even where you're at now, the digital devices and social media for students. And what struggles maybe bubble up most often? Is it something like cyberbullying? Is mental health a big challenge? Or is it really just overuse or misuse and consequences?
I would say like I said, so this is my 4th year actually in the field, like working full time in this field. So, I mean, I'm sure all of those things are very prevalent. I haven't really had any students that I've dealt with personally that have kind of just overuse, depression that could kind of be related back to, too much social media. Cause I know that that's a big, like, hot topic of, social media and all that can affect your mental health. I would say what I've dealt with more, and especially this year at the new school, is just just constant unsupervised access to one another. So, at least in the building, they're pretty much supervised in some way. Like even in lunch, like there's people walking through monitoring, like with social media, like if they're getting bullied at school, or, if there's a person at school that they try and avoid, there's no escape. They're bringing it home with them. It's through the whole night. It's on the weekends. It's over the summer. They have constant access to each other. So I'd say that's been a really tough one. Like I had a student come, they're on a group chat. They were on the softball team, and there was a group chat that was on Snapchat, of course. And there's no adult in there, of course, as well. So yeah, it's not good. It's not positive. And the other thing that I've already noticed a couple times so far this school year is just using screenshots, getting access to private conversations or, public conversations, and using that to spread it around and say, look at this, and this person said that, or, like, and it's friends. Like it's created so much opportunity for young people to be able to make poor choices, I think is the biggest thing. It's a lot of responsibility, and they rarely handle it well.
And it's a responsibility that adults often struggle to deal with as well. So just imagine trying to find yourself in this world as a teenager and having this responsibility on you. It's absolutely right.
All right, Lexi, I have another question for you. So I know that you're on your 4th year of being a school counselor, but in this modern digital age, have you had any training specific, or what training have you had specific to social media and digital devices with your counselor training? Or do you have resources or procedures that you use?
So surprisingly, not really. Like not really, at least as much as you would think. Like I'm sure if I went back far enough, like especially to like when I was in school, I'm sure there was chapters or, whatever on this kind of stuff. In the actually working in the field, I'd say the biggest opportunity for stuff like that would be our professional development, PD. And usually that looks like selecting your different topics. So like going, session 1, you can pick from these 20 sessions. So it's choice, and I'm sure in those choices there have been a couple ish, but I don't see it a lot. I mean, a lot of the PD that we do is directed towards teachers, so it's not super focused in mental health anyway. I would say I think the biggest thing is that it's just not like we're desensitized to it. Like I would say 10 years ago, it was, we got to learn how to, counsel kids through this whole social media thing that's becoming hot these days. Like it just doesn't feel as topical. I think that people just feel like, okay, well that's our life now. So it's not really a topic of a lot of trainings, or there's no like, here's our procedure for this, or here's how we handle this. Like it's not really talked about that often. Like I said, with the topical PD sessions, I saw like 6 different sessions for like AI in the classroom. So I don't know if it's just like not interesting anymore, which is, it's kind of sad to say because it is very much still topical and affecting kids' lives. But I personally have not had a lot of experience with training and different stuff like that. Like it's not really a thing.
And it is social media and digital devices are so much of who kids are now these days. And they need to learn
Yeah.
how to use it appropriately. And, that can make your job hard when you're
Yes.
trying to figure out how to support them when they're going through those struggles. And you're using your experience and
Right.
maybe haven't had training specifically on that.
Yeah. I wonder if it's just like well, everybody knows this already by now. Like, which isn't
Right.
true.
Right.
Like I said, this year I've had so many kids that come in and are just like, I need to talk. A large portion of the time it has something to do with some kind of social media, pulling out their phone, look what this kid said. Like, I don't know. So it's 100% still very topical, but it's not really a part of just like a common curriculum for, trainings and stuff like that.
Well, and like you said, they have trainings on AI. So then are they going to teach, teachers and counselors how to make sure that's being used correctly? We're just adding more technology and more platforms, but not,
Yeah. And yeah. And really like the AI stuff that I saw was just like
Right.
using it in your curriculum, teaching like how you can use AI as a teacher in
Okay.
your lessons. Yeah, because like I said, it's we don't really get a lot of professional development that's catered towards counselors. So even just like a mental health, it's just not really catered to us. Unfortunately, we kind of just have to, if we want to further our education, then we kind of just have to seek that out.
Okay. Are you aware of any social media etiquette programs that are in your district, like that students use in the classroom? Or if not, do you feel like that would be beneficial to have something to reduce misuse?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of anything. I think it would be amazing. I think just from my, I guess, just personal experience, or, you know, seeing things, reading things, articles, whatever, I think that it is being addressed as just more of like a part of the classroom, like in health class. I'm sure that's part of the like discussion in the mental health area, the mental health chapter. There's, current events, just like different topics, different classes that I'm sure that kind of thing is discussed, like media literacy, like we were talking about earlier, of like, how do you, like, probably even English classes, like, how do you find information on the internet and know that it's reputable. So that kind of stuff where it's just already ingrained in classrooms after 20 years of being in this age of technology and media and Facebook and all that. So I think it's just kind of ingrained in our curriculum. At least that's what I'm telling myself, because that's my hope.
Fingers crossed.
But I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
And I think you're right, both on from your professional development to student curriculum. It feels like it's glazed over. It feels like maybe it's a topic that we should know how to handle by this point. But I mean, it constantly evolves.
Yes.
I mean, TikTok blew on the scene, and the way we interact and engage is constantly changing. And it seems as though we continue to hear misuse, bullying, students losing scholarship opportunities for just thinking about the digital footprint and what that looks like, and how that's scrutinized when you're looking to get into college and beyond, right?
Yeah. It's a part of us, like every aspect of our lives.
At every part. That's absolutely right.
Yep.
So you mentioned students occasionally will come in and thinking about addressing those discussions and their digital footprint. What advice do you feel like you most often share with them?
I would say just this year, I've had probably at least 2 students that I've talked with who were going through something. And a big part of that was trusting people that they probably shouldn't have trusted. The way that conversation went is like, you can't trust even like people that you consider friends. Like she didn't have her phone. It was taken away from her as a punishment. And so she was, of course, not going to go without her social media. And so she would log into her account on friends' phones. And so she's, got her, account logged in on 3 different phones. And so now, kind of like I was saying earlier, like somebody went in, took a screenshot of her private, like Snapchats, private conversations, and used that to like send around. And so I was just like, you got to treat it like it's your bank account information, like treat it like it's like like you're handing over your diary and walking away and saying, you can look if you want, but I'll, what I'm saying? Like it's not, they just take it so lightly.
Yeah.
And so, and like you said, like don't even realize how much, like how big it could affect them. So with this, it's, some people were mad at me. They showed, these people, these private messages, and it was a fight. And now, but it can be way bigger than that. It can be jobs, it can be scholarships, it can be, colleges. So don't trust people. Like if you're going to use social media, it's got to be locked down, have a secure password, like, because it really can't, like if somebody hacks in, it can affect your entire life, your livelihood even.
And that's hard for a teenager to kind of wrap their head around. Like, these are my friends and I should be able to trust them. And then that can change so fast.
Well, thinking about that, logging in on someone else's device and the password gets saved, whether you realize it or not. And then they have access to all of your, which could be your innermost dark secrets or whatever, right? They have access to it.
Yes. Like the level of trust, man. I'm like, I don't even trust, I don't trust anybody that much. But I think it's just, of course, the teenage mindset of, it's fine,
Right.
Like
nothing
it
will
won't
happen to me.
Yeah. And that's not even a situation where you say, well, when you put something out there, it's out there. You can't control it. It does what it does on social media, right? This is a whole different aspect of that. And it comes down to trust. And I love that you said, treat it like your bank information. Do not share.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great perspective and great advice to give.
Just as important.
Great perspective. Great advice for kids. Okay, so that's advice for students. What piece of advice would you share with other counselors when it comes to digital citizenship?
I would say, so like leading by example, I think, and especially because you can then use your experiences, if appropriate, like especially since I'm in the, millennial generation. I did do part of my growing up, especially later teen years after social media was already a thing. And, of course, the internet, AIM, like, you know, a portion of my childhood was I have some of these experiences and I can share those experiences, even though it looks very different these days. I think that can be very insightful. It's one thing when it's somebody who didn't have any of this going on when they were young. So I think that is, if you can, and like I said, if it's appropriate, sharing kind of just some personal like wisdom. Yeah. So leading by example, sharing experiences. And I think the other thing is, especially with this kind of stuff, is not lecturing, because just being more like supportive, giving advice, but being realistic and not just saying you need to, delete all your social media. You need to just not be doing this and that, partaking it. Like it's here. Like it's not going anywhere. They're
No.
not deleting their social media. They're not taking a break. Like that's not happening. So I think just being realistic with it, down to earth with it, getting on their level a little bit, I'd say that's going to be the most effective way to have them hear literally anything that you're saying.
Which is right up our alley. And the goal of what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast is we're not promoting that social media go away. We're not promoting like get rid of your social media
Yes.
accounts, but we want to bring the tools and resources and perspectives from others so that people can learn
Yeah.
and grow and use this appropriately and use it as the powerful and positive tool that it really should be, and less about the negative consequences that we hear
Yes.
about. So thank you. That was great to say that.
Yeah. It's education, and just I think just passing on that wisdom of, I've been there and here's what ended up happening, and it's not worth it.
So let's just say that social media was wiped out for a couple days and we all were forced to take a little bit of a break. What book would you pick up, or what would you be reading?
So it would depend, I think, if my daughter was here. So she's 10 and she likes to sometimes like read books together, or like she'll read a page, I'll read a page. So I would say if it's me and her hanging out and we need something to do, my one of my favorite books growing up was Charlotte's Web. I actually have a copy of it that is completely broken down, torn apart, cover coming off. That belonged to my mom because she really loved the book. So I just love, I don't know, just that like piece of it where, passing it down, I can pass it down to her and she can have that same, copy. But just the story is something I've always kind of loved and shared with my mom because, like I said, she's always loved that book as well. For me personally, kind of if I'm just on my own and I need something to pick up, I bought this a few years ago. It was actually before I think it was when I was in like grad school. And so just trying to, Webster has a very culturally aware kind of program where they want to make sure you're not just catering to one specific demographic. They want to make sure they're putting out counselors that have a I guess more of like a worldview that's not just their own personal experiences. So the book I picked up was Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? It's by Beverly Daniel Tatum. And yeah, it's been a while since I read it, but it was very good. It was definitely informative. It was nice to have kind of, I have no experience being in a school that is predominantly Black students. So then I ended up getting the job at Roosevelt. And so just having even just like the smallest bit of possibly a different worldview than my own was really nice.
Yeah.
And it was a good read. So I recommend it.
Thank you. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. It's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
Lexi, thank you so much for being with us today. You had so many insightful things to share with us, and we really appreciate your time and giving us the school counselor perspective. So we really appreciate you being here with us today.
Of course. I was happy to do it, and I appreciate you guys thinking of me.
Well, this is there's going to be plenty of people taking some things away from this. I found myself nodding my head pretty much the whole time you were talking. So it resonated with us, and we feel it's going to do the same for the audience. So thank you again.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. We'll talk to you soon, Lexi.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. That was so great hearing a counselor perspective at a high school level. It was very eye-opening to me. To start off, I love that she talked about social media and how Lexi's school uses it in such positive ways. I know a lot of districts have Facebook pages or use social media in that way, but social media is at our fingertips. And if you want to get information to parents about snow days or different things happening in the district, it is such a great way to use it. And she also mentioned like bragging on different things that are going on or sporting events, things like that. So I think that she highlighted some really great ways that social media can be used.
I was thrilled to hear her talk about topics like media literacy and encouraging the kids to find new information, just use it in such a positive way. And one other thing that stuck out to me is that she called out students with mobility issues where they can still get an educational resource all at their fingertips because of all the accessibility opportunities that now exist. It was a great call out.
Right. Along with if you're out because you're sick and you're out several days, it keeps you from getting behind. So yes, there's so many advantages.
There is.
There's also a lot of misuse, unfortunately. At that level, being a teenager, there's a lot to learn in life, and that comes with social media too. So it was kind of alarming to hear some of the things that students at that age do, taking the screenshots and passing around that information. But oh my goodness, putting your information in personal phones. It's something I didn't have to deal with as a kid, but I bet it happens to so many people that they do that and forget to log out.
I know this is somewhat of a reiteration from what I stated in the episode, but controlling your information and what you put out there, it's kind of the golden rule of having a good digital footprint. But putting your login information in someone else's device can be like putting everything you have into their hands to control, to manipulate, to screenshot, and to do what they want with it. And how often do we hear that it ends up in some type of altercation, a lot of confrontation, arguments, fights? Hold that information near and dear to you and do not share that information and log in on other people's devices. If you have to, just make sure you log out.
And it just really kind of made me think about that parent piece. She had mentioned sometimes when they're logging into other devices, it's because their phone was taken away. And while that might be a consequence that some parents use, kids are smart and they're going to find other ways to access it. So just as a parent myself, I'm thinking about that and how maybe having that conversation about what happened rather than confiscating a phone and, having that communication and that trust so that you can kind of teach them, whatever they did and to help them be better with social media and be a better digital citizen.
Kids are resilient and they'll find ways to access social media. There are unintended consequences that will always come out of some sort of disciplinary action. And oftentimes it simply just isn't considered. Using the same example of a device being taken and kids logging into a friend's device turned out to be a terrible experience and situation. And hopefully hearing these types of examples will be helpful in that it can be a light bulb moment for parents, and we can be proactive versus reactive in conversations going forward. And it was for me.
Yes. I also liked how Lexi talked about for advice, not necessarily lecturing a student because they're not listening if you're lecturing them, but listening to what they're going through and thinking about their own experiences and passing on wisdom and advice and just being someone that they can listen to and come to. If we're lecturing them, they're not going to come to us, and we need to be the teachers and help them learn how to navigate the digital world that we live in.
She's in a unique position to be able to share some of the things that she experienced because she's been through it as well. Obviously, maybe a little bit different as social media has evolved, as she mentioned, but just being able to say, here's some things to consider, and this also happened to me, or this is something that I've experienced and how I overcame them. So let's talk about it. It just resonates so much more with kids and really with anybody, but it builds a bit of a relationship and some trust and kind of almost put yourself in a position of a trusted confidant when you start to consider that type of an approach.
Yes, that empathy piece and sharing that wisdom and advice is so important with kids of that age, especially. I'm wondering, when she was mentioning the lack of program at her school and not having a ton of PD around this, what other high schools or districts are doing around social media development or etiquette and how to use digital devices appropriately. I thought that was interesting and really just made me think, is that similar across the board, or does that look different district to district?
Could be a big part of trending topics and evolution of digital and social media, but I'm sure this looks different at other districts. And like Lexi said, maybe it's baked into specific curriculums at this point. We have little to no context of what they experience day to day. However, it does make me think like topics of cyberbullying, digital citizenship. Is it glazed over at this point? It definitely is not going away. Children and adults alike will continue to struggle with this.
Yes, and I would love to have the data of, schools or districts that do have things in place, what that data looks like for the incidents that they have with social media, cyberbullying, mental health, all those different things that we're seeing, and how that looks district to district depending on what they're using, because I know there are great resources out there.
Yeah, definitely.
And most important, Lexi's right. It's not going anywhere. And we have to teach our kids to be good digital citizens and to use social media appropriately and, embrace it and teach them how to use it, when to use it, why to use it, and make sure that they're learning those bits of wisdoms as she mentioned.
Yeah, and the decision making that comes along with that, because bad decisions will be made, and that's okay. It's a part of life. We all know that we learn from adversity, but knowing who to talk to and where to go when you need help, that just helps minimize the impacts of a bad decision.
Yes.
Nicole, this has been such a fun conversation, as always, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. We've heard a great counselor perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
And remember, in the midst of chaos, there's always a way to find clarity. Have a great day.
Bye.
We are growing and would love your feedback. Please rate us and share your thoughts or any topics you would be interested in us covering in the future. Are you or someone you know interested in being a guest on the podcast? Visit us at chaoticdigitalworld.com.
One way to help support the show is by adding a new resource to your library. Order a copy of A Parent's Guide, Keeping Your Children Safe in a Chaotic Digital World today on Amazon. Follow us on all social media platforms, and don't forget to subscribe to keep updated with new episodes and bonus content. As always, thank you for listening. This episode of Chaotic Digital World is brought to you in part by Next Steps Inc. Next Steps, a software created for schools or organizations to transform the way we think about attendance management. Did you know? When an institution or organization uses 5 minutes per day for 6 sessions, that's equivalent to 15 wasted hours per month. And if there's an emergency evacuation, emergency personnel have to go in and search for those who may be hiding. we've solved those problems and more. At Next Steps, you can say goodbye to manual attendance and hello to efficiency and productivity. Our software automates the entire process, saving you time and resources. Visit us on our website at next-stepsinc.com to book a demo and learn more. We're waiting to speak with you.